My wife cheated on me with a woman for the second time. Me 32M and my wife 28F have been together for a short period of time. We dated for a year and have been married for a year and 4 months. She got pregnant with our 1-year-old daughter 5 months into us dating, and she has a 12-year-old son. She went out once with some girlfriends and told me she was so drunk she kissed a girl. She acted like it wasn't a big deal, but I was very bothered by it and let her know I didn't like it at all and not to do anything like that again. She agreed and I let it go. Now last Saturday she went out again with girlfriends and came home at 4 a.m. I wasn't really bothered by it and assumed she had a fun night. Before she left I even jokingly said don't be kissing other girls. Then Sunday night she's crying and I ask her what happened and she tells me she had time with another woman. Now I want a divorce and she's begging me to take her back and how she won't do it again and that she doesn't want to lose me and break up the family, that it was a mistake and she was so drunk she wasn't thinking. I feel bad because our daughter will grow up with parents that aren't together, but I have to think about my happiness. I will never be able to forget about it. That's why I don't want to continue the marriage. I hate it because I love her so much and I feel like I can end this pain by taking her back, but my gut tells me that is the wrong choice. Story 2. Should I be the good guy like I have been, or should I go after her for what she is doing now? I will give a brief overview of what I have been going through and what I just found out. I was married for a long time. We were friends before marriage. While I did not know at the time, her cheating started at the very beginning. I was the romantic guy that did everything for my ex. I was the one that did the cooking, cleaning, and everything in the house, not to mention I was the one that worked and paid bills. She never once did anything, originally claiming she could not do anything because she was getting her degree. A degree that she paid for with my hard work, and something she did during our marriage without ever discussing it with me. I only found out because almost $2,000 was taken out of my account. Yes, it was mine because I had not been able to add her to it yet. She made it where I was effed into it without knowing and went to a college for health coaching. At the time I loved her and we agreed to do this, but that she would find a job to help with some of the expenses. For the record, she never got a job until the end of the marriage. I spent the remainder of the marriage working more and more. I worked as a graphic artist for a newspaper, so I would do work with it as well as work some freelance on the side to make money for us. The more I worked, the more she spent. So the 84 hours I worked in 1 week, and the 72 the next, just was thrown away into her spending on what she wanted. I was also the one trying to make time for us, being romantic, cooking a special meal homemade as I had to make my own red pepper sauce because she could not eat tomatoes, and so much more, being there to help with her homework, bring her coffee and homemade desserts, being the one to try and talk, being the one to initiate time, I mean romance, trying to dance with her, show her I love her, writing poems and foreplay, pleasing her and making sure her needs were met. I was never thanked, or at least, told anything. During all this, she was having emotional affairs as well as physical ones with exes. She would yell at me claiming we did not have enough money and it was stressing her out. Something I found funny is she never once helped with anything. Her family even said that my job was to keep her happy and work so she did not have to. So now comes to the point. I found out about her cheating and we agreed to work on ourselves. For a while things were great, but then I got sick. I had worked to the point that I never had a break for me, and between stress and everything I got sick. Turns out she was cheating with other men all along. When I got to the point that I could barely move without the pain in my abdomen and such, her parents and she had been talking about lying to me. They originally told me that they were trying to get me some medical help, but turns out from what I heard them talk about over the phone one night, it was a lie. They were talking about how once I died she would have my life insurance policy as well as be able to sue the medical system for not doing their job. There is so much more to this, and while I am going the short route about this, trust me, this version makes her look nicer than she really is. Eventually, she started cheating with a married man. By that time she wanted a divorce. I remember this all too well, as she woke me up at 3 a.m. on Christmas Day to tell me she wanted a divorce by saying, "I can't believe he is dead. I had planned on going back to him as soon as you died." Turns out one of her APs died an ex, and it hurt that she was still waiting for me to crock for the sole purpose of her getting my money. We eventually got a divorce, though because of illness and being heavily medicated was not sure I ever signed the papers. This is important. However, a few months after everything I was told went through, she of course left to be with her AP, and is now married. Now, since I have been healthy again, had to move out of WV to get diagnosed and treated, I have found she has been having a blog where she has claimed I abused her, cheated on her, and other things, all of which are lies. During this time I figured that anyone would believe a liar who cannot keep her lies straight within her blog post or even a paragraph would be someone I did not want to be around. So I moved forward and worked on myself. Since then I have got back my life. While I am working out to get back the body I had, I also managed to get an amazing job, my own house I love, and have a chance to remodel to my dream home. I am living an hour and a half away from the beach, and while I still have trust issues and in all honesty should stop watching some crime shows and doc as it is making me wonder about dating in general, I am doing okay. I still have my bad days, but in all, I am doing well. Now comes this Friday. I was cleaning some stuff up as I still have boxes to unpack. So while taking some paperwork and putting it into my filing cabinet, I came upon my divorce papers. To put it bluntly, I was taken back. There were my signature was my name in her own writing. I honestly do not know what was going through her mind to do this, though. If I was honest, she did this even during the marriage when she wrote checks. She signed my name. I quickly called my friend Richard, who is a lawyer, about this, and he told me he would have to look into this when it gets into the office Monday, but from what he says there is a chance that I could still be married to this woman. Which means she is married to 2 men. My first thought is to fix this quietly, as I do not want this person back into my life, nor do I want her to have a chance to take what I now have. We talked, he said he would look into it, so do not worry. That was Friday night, and since then I have been stressing some and worrying about it. I have kept myself busy, but even then there are moments I have wondered, is this my chance to get closure and finish with her? Maybe use this to have her take everything down and stop lying about me, so I do not have that causing me issues. As it did cause me issues, starting back out with finding a job again. One part of me wants to just take care of it quietly and not have to deal with her. But I admit I have this nagging feeling that keeps telling me she deserves this and so much more. Won't know my options until tomorrow at some time. Please, any advice would help. What should I do? Story 3. Watch your so-called best friends. Me 25M, girlfriend 23F at the time. A little over 25 years ago, I found the woman of my dreams. We will call her Mary. We did everything together. She learned to love my passions like scuba diving and fishing. She was beautiful, smart and funny. After about a year we moved in together, more or less. I still kept my own place but stayed at her place more often than not. Life was great. In fact, I was thinking about asking her to marry me. Then she started to act distant. I was getting the Heisman in bed, and she started to want alone time, picking BS fights. Always be mindful of red flags, even if she tells you it's not in your head. I started to talk to my best friend Billy every night about what was happening and how I was thinking it was another man. and what I was trying to do to find out. After trying for a long time to catch her, I gave up, and moved on. I ended up moving to another city about 2 hours away with a much better job. Then one day out of the blue, Mary reconnects with me. We chat for hours and hours over days and weeks. Think of Forrest Gump. We were like peas and carrots. She comes to visit, it goes well, so she moves in with me and finds a job. Things are going so well we start to look for a nicer apartment, and again I was thinking about popping the question. I was in the process of thinning things out, pitching out the junk to make the move easier. She drove up to see her folks. 2-hour drive. I had to work the next day, so I did not go. I went back to pitching out things. I got to a pile of partially used legal pads and notebooks, flipped through them to make sure nothing. I was not pitching out anything important. I opened a notebook, like the ones in school with a black and white binder. It was Mary's journal. I read it, every single sordid word. I was absolutely crushed. I went into the bathroom and puked. It's been 25 years and I can still feel the pain. I hardly know where to start. She was having a non-stop sexual affair with my best friend Billy, with every sexual detail you can imagine down to the taste of RCM. Her and Billy were laughing at me about how he knew every single thing I was doing to catch them. It all falls into place. That is the reason I never caught him. I was telling my every move to the guy that was ducking my girl. A few months after our breaking up, still completely in the dark, I started to notice that Billy was very, very distant. For example, I was not invited to a barbecue held at Billy's house, which I thought was odd, but I went anyway. When I walked in, they acted like they had seen a ghost, and few were bumping their elbows to each other and were chuckling to themselves. I saw Mary there, which was not a shock as we ran with the same crowd. In hindsight, Billy looked uncomfortable, but at the time I played it off as maybe he thought he forgot to invite me and felt bad. I did not stay long as the place had a weird vibe going on. More red flags. In large part I was ostracized from my what I thought friends, still in the dark, so much so that I never said goodbye to any of them when I moved. After reading her journal, I made copies, one set for me, one set for Mary's parents, one set for Billy's current wife and his parents, and left a set on top of the pile of her things by the front door. I put a note in saying, she has 24 hours to pack and leave, otherwise I will call the police. My name is on the lease. My phone blew up and I did not answer. My voicemail was filled with, "I love you, you are my best friend, that was in the past, you are the love of my life," etc., etc. and more etc. At the end of my note on top of her things it said, "I will never be someone's plan B." Fast forward 20 plus years, happy married to a woman that adores me with grown kids. Moral to the story: pay attention to red flags, and remember Caesar thought that Brutus was his friend. Story 4, wife told me on my birthday that she was cheating on me. When I was 48, I was a correctional officer in my country. My wife told me, on my birthday, she was having an affair. He was the love of her life with a guy, because I was working all the time. There were 5 of us and a huge mortgage. The next day she moved out of our house and in with him, leaving the 3 children. Youngest was 3 with me. The year before I had had a triple bypass, but because of complications, due to an assault at the prison, I was still not right, but had to go back to work. I did the best I could but could not both work and look after the children. Shift work. I resigned from the service and took on the role of a stay-at-home dad. After a lot of years of toil and sickness, it's now 16 years later by the way, within a month of her leaving she tells me she is pregnant and the child she had with him turns out to be mine as well, lol. We never got a divorce and I am cordial to her, for the sake of the kids. The children have very little contact with her and have grown up to be very stable and loving, and my son comes to visit often. I now have a beautiful grandson, from my oldest boy. I have never been with another woman since. Call me wounded. I did what I needed to do and life goes on. Story 5, When Cheating is Not Cheating. I wanted to post my story here, because this sub is filled with poor souls who have experienced the worst of the worst of the worst. I was one of you once. I walked in on my first ex balls deep in another woman on my bed once. But this cheating story I want to share is different. I want to give the other end of the cheating spectrum, and why you're always valid for leaving over any level of infidelity. I'm 2 for 2 on cheating husbands, but this time, the pain is in my hands and on my terms. My ex was raised by a single mom. His dad left his mother with 3 young boys to pursue a younger woman and new family, and my ex always said he would never cheat because of how it destroyed his mother. I believed him. When we first met, he confessed he's been sexually active with over 500 women. I believed him. But this was a red flag to me. When I asked why me out of 500, he always told me I'm marriage material, mother material, that I love him for him, unlike those other women who only cared about DCK and money. I shouldn't have quieted that place in my mind that said red flag, but I did. But aside from that, he was perfect. Until he wasn't. I found flirty messages on his phone to 4 different girls. The girls weren't even flirting back, just being friendly, but his messages made him seem like a single man out to get laid. No insinuations of an affair were made, and I highly doubt he physically cheated, but the act of seeking out other women for romance. I couldn't suffer it. I confronted him calmly, and ended it right there. In his defense, he's playing the role of the perfect, remorseful gentleman. He hasn't blamed me, lied, gaslighted, or diminished my feelings. He immediately fessed up to the flirting and did everything right. He told me there is just too much temptation out there and he was only seeking validation due to low self-esteem and it isn't my fault. But it isn't enough. And that's okay. He told me I'll spend the rest of my life proving myself to you. You're perfect, and I'll never stop working to deserve you. I'll go to therapy. I'll give you my phone. I'll delete social media, etc. But what about me? What about my life with you? Am I to spend the only life I've got with a man I'll never trust? If you have to spend a lifetime trusting someone, what is the point? The foundation is shattered. And if I am so perfect, then why wasn't I enough in the first place for you? I won't be with a man who has to completely delete social media just to behave. I won't build the foundation of a family with a man who is made of sand. And I'm not jealous. I don't care about him talking to women. But I care when he disrespects our relationship, to seek out romantic extracurriculars. He would never tolerate me texting another man, "Hey, they're sexy." So I left. I left my marriage over flirty Instagram messages, because I won't spend my life looking over my shoulder. I would rather be alone than miserable. And for people who still enjoy the high of flirting with strangers, just because you don't duck doesn't mean it isn't cheating. Flirting busts holes in foundations, and those foundations are a hell of a lot harder to repair than they are to build. So do yourself a favor and don't get in a relationship if you still desire this kind of narcissistic validation. It's okay if you're single, but not if you're taken. And if you've ever been told that leaving over harmless texts is just throwing a relationship away, do yourself a favor as well and find someone worth building a future with. That's all. And to my ex-husband, one day when your beautiful blue eyes are covered in cataracts, and your muscles turn to flab, and your thick dark hair starts to thin and fall out, I hope you're happy. Because the high of esting pretty girls and having them respond will fade quickly. One day, if you don't change, you're going to look around and find an empty household. Money, attractiveness, material possessions. It never mattered love. I hope you learn that lesson before it's too late. I would have been there, and I think you know it. But I will never be a doormat. Best of luck in your Tinder endeavors. I am many things, but I am not one of 500. Redditor's reactions. Redditor 1, I'm proud of reading this story. Thank you for knowing your worth when so many people don't. Redditor 2, wow. This is incredible dating advice that all should read. Even those in happy relationships. You are right. You have one life, live it right. Redditor 3, oh my god, this is so good. My husband did the same thing. Said it was harmless and I was willing to throw the whole marriage away, but decided to give it a chance because that was the only thing he did and it was really harmless. I just didn't appreciate him lying to me about talking to someone. I swore on my own life that I would divorce him if he did it again, even if it's something shallow, because I won't be someone who'll stay miserable just trying to force a relationship on someone. Love shouldn't be hard or effed. Thank you for this post. I screenshotted it. It was so heartwarming and I felt so good after reading this.